So, let me tell you about this super bizarre stay I had at a hotel last year. This place wasn't in the middle of a big city or anything, just a random hotel on the way to somewhere else. It looked all right from the outside, kind of charming in an old-fashioned way. But inside, it was a whole different story. I checked in late in the evening, and the guy at the front desk barely said 2 words. Just handed me the key and pointed to the stairs. My room was on the 2nd floor, and as soon as I opened the door, I got this weird feeling, like something was off. The room was cold, and it smelled like old books and dust. I was tired, so I tried to sleep, but kept waking up to the sound of tapping on the window. Every time I checked, nothing was there. It was probably just a branch or something, right? But then I heard soft footsteps outside my door, pacing back and forth. I looked out the peephole, and the hallway was empty. In the morning, I asked the lady serving breakfast if the hotel was haunted or something. She just laughed and said it was an old building, full of noises and creaks. But the way she said it, it seemed like she was brushing it off too quickly. That day I met a few other guests, and we got talking about the weird stuff happening around. Turns out I wasn't the only one hearing noises. One guy even said he saw a shadow in his room, but when he turned on the light, there was nothing there. So a few of us decided to look around the hotel just for fun, to see if we could find out anything spooky. We explored the usual guest areas, then found this old door in the basement that looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, it was like a storage room filled with old furniture, mirrors covered with cloths, and boxes of hotel records. We were looking through the stuff when we found a bunch of old guest books and newspapers. Reading through them, we pieced together that the hotel had a pretty dark past, with stories of people checking in and then disappearing without a trace. Suddenly, while we were down there, the door slammed shut. We tried to open it, but it was like it was stuck. Then, the tapping noise started again, this time from inside the room with us. We were freaking out, shouting for help. After what felt like hours, the door just popped open, but nobody was outside waiting to let us out. We all agreed that was enough detective work for one stay and decided to leave the next day. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. When I got home, I tried to look up more about the hotel, but I couldn't find anything online. It's like the place exists in its own little bubble of weirdness. Never going back there, that's for sure. Next time I'm staying somewhere, I'm checking out the reviews first and making sure there's nothing weird about the place. This whole crazy thing happened at this hotel I stayed at while on a road trip. The hotel was one of those no-frills places, pretty run down but cheap, so I wasn't expecting luxury or anything. Just needed a place to sleep, you know. After checking in, I went to my room, dropped off my stuff, and left to grab some food. When I got back, I noticed right away that my door wasn't completely shut. I thought maybe I hadn't closed it properly or something, but it nagged at me because I'm usually careful about that stuff. I walked into the room and looked around. Everything seemed okay at first glance. My bag was where I left it, though it seemed a bit off, like someone had moved it and then put it back in a hurry. That got me feeling really uneasy, but nothing seemed to be missing. I went down to the front desk to ask if they had sent anyone to my room for some reason. The guy there seemed confused and said no. They hadn't sent any of their staff up to my room since I checked in. That conversation just made me feel more anxious. Back in my room, I double-checked my stuff. And although everything was there, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was wrong. I tried to settle down and go to sleep, but it was tough with all these thoughts running through my head. Then around midnight, I heard this faint noise at the door, like someone was fiddling with the lock. I was half asleep, but snapped awake instantly. I went silent, listening, and sure enough, there it was again, the sound of someone trying to use a key in the door. I tiptoed to the door and peered through the peephole. There was this guy in a hood messing with the lock, trying to get in. My heart was racing. I shouted, "Who's there?" And he looked up, saw me watching, and took off running. I called the front desk, freaking out, telling them someone tried to break into my room. They sent up a security guard who checked around but found no one. The guard told me there had been a string of thefts in the hotel recently. They suspected someone had gotten hold of a master key and was using it to sneak into rooms. Hearing that made me feel even less safe. I barely slept the rest of the night, kept jumping at every little sound. In the morning, I met other guests at breakfast who talked about similar experiences. One person had their room broken into and some stuff stolen right out of their suitcase. That's when I decided I was done. I packed up, checked out, and reported everything to the police. They took it seriously, especially since this wasn't the first report they'd gotten about incidents at that hotel. The police investigation turned up that the thief was a local guy who had been targeting hotels in the area for a while. He'd somehow gotten a master key and had been stealing from guests for months. They finally caught him a few weeks after my incident. Now, whenever I book a hotel, I do my research, check reviews for any mention of security issues, and I'm always careful to use all the locks on the door and keep my valuables locked up. That experience definitely taught me to be more cautious and pay attention to my gut feelings about a place. So, I've got this crazy story about a hotel I stayed in, and I swear it's like something out of a horror movie. The hotel was way out in the countryside, looked quaint and pretty in the photos, but the vibe was totally off as soon as I arrived. It was too quiet, and the staff had this weird, nervous energy. I got to my room, and it was okay. Old furniture, a bit musty, but nothing too bad. But then night came, and things started getting weird. I heard these odd noises, like people whispering right outside my door and the sound of something dragging on the floor above me. I tried to ignore it, thinking maybe it was just the old building settling or something. The next day, while I was looking for my lost earring, I found a crumpled-up newspaper article hidden behind the dresser. It was all about some mysterious events at the hotel, stuff like unexplained accidents and people disappearing. That got me hooked. I had to know more. I asked the staff about the hotel's history, but they all clammed up. They wouldn't tell me anything, just changed the subject or walked away. This made me even more curious, so I decided to do a little detective work myself. That night, the noises were back, louder and creepier. I couldn't sleep, so I got up and roamed the halls. The hotel felt different at night, kind of eerie with shadows that seemed to move. I followed the sound of the whispers to a locked door in the back of the hotel. It was old and rusty, but I managed to open it. Inside was a room that looked like it hadn't been touched in years, full of old furniture and boxes of paperwork and stuff. Digging through the mess, I found more articles and some old guest books with names of people who had stayed here, some of which were crossed out. But the real shocker was finding a recent photo of my room with some of my things in it. It looked like it was taken from the closet, which totally freaked me out. Who was taking pictures of me, and why? I didn't stick around to find out. I packed my things, went straight to the front desk, and told them I was leaving. They didn't seem surprised, just kind of resigned, like they knew why I was freaked out. I drove away as fast as I could, and once I was safely home, I called the police to tell them everything. They said they'd investigate because apparently I wasn't the first guest to report strange things happening there. So, yeah, that's my story. I learned my lesson about staying in random hotels. Next time, I'm sticking to well-known places where the only surprise is a bad breakfast buffet, not a creepy mystery photo session. So I had this weird experience at a hotel while traveling for work. The place was old and had that classic look, like in those vintage movies. It was well kept, though, not creepy at all during the day. But at night, man, it was a different story. I checked in late afternoon, and the staff were super friendly, giving me the usual welcome and key card. My room was on the 5th floor, pretty standard but comfortable. After a long day, I was looking forward to just chilling and watching some TV. Everything was chill until I turned off the lights and got into bed. That's when I started hearing these soft noises like faint music playing somewhere. I figured it was just coming from another room or maybe even outside, so I didn't think much of it at first. But then the music got a little louder, and I could almost make out the sound of someone humming along with it, which was weird because it sounded like it was coming from inside my room. I checked the bathroom, even looked under the bed, but there was nothing there. I managed to fall asleep, but I kept waking up to this music, playing off and on. In the morning, I mentioned it to the front desk, thinking maybe the sound system was left on or something. They looked puzzled and said they didn't have speakers on that floor. They also mentioned that other guests had heard similar things before, but they never found out where it was coming from. The next night, the same thing happened, only this time, the music was accompanied by soft footsteps, like someone pacing the room. I turned on the lights, and the sound stopped immediately. It was dead silent. I checked the time, and it was exactly 3 a.m., which freaked me out a bit. I didn't sleep much after that, just waited for morning so I could get out of there. When I was checking out, I overheard another guest talking about the strange music they heard at night, and it gave me chills knowing it wasn't just me. I did some digging later and found out that the hotel used to be a dance hall back in the day, and there were rumors of it being haunted by a musician who had passed away there. I'm not usually one to believe in ghosts, but after what I experienced, I can't help but wonder. Definitely a trip I won't forget anytime soon. Thank you for watching. If you found these stories gripping, don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling content. For another hair-raising tale, check out our suggested video. And if you're hungry for more eerie encounters, dive into our playlist featuring similar chilling narratives.